Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Brightworks in another matchup beyond all reason. I've certainly been on a bender recently, enjoying some varieties of different game styles. Apparently, the OS was split between the 5v5s and 8v8s, or apparently there's some line in the sand. I think it's above 5v5, so 6v6 and up is considered one game mode or big team battle or something like that, and then lower is considered regular size team battle or something. I don't know. Anyways, welcome to another match of Beyond All Reason. Today's match is going to be a 5 versus 5. And spawning here is our blue team leader as an Armada commander is MDXD. All the way on the other side of the map, MT King. Now apparently we've got Legion enabled. This should be lovely to see because I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, there's a D-gun. Ladies and gentlemen, this is ginormous. So apparently Legion has received their D-gun. Finally, it has happened. It was a sore mark on the stain, or a sore stain on the record of Legion, right? It was such an awesome faction, but they just didn't have any way to compete with those T3 units. And so unfortunately, they always felt a little bit lackluster going into the late game. It was one of the trade-offs that was considered necessary for Legion to be viable, in the sense that their commanders are very strong in the early game, and it was essentially assumed that they would fall off in the late game and it would be fine. But with the prevalence of T3 rushes and that sort of thing, yeah, that D-gun is definitely necessary. So I'm excited to see exactly what it looks like. Apparently it's like some sort of AoE thing. This looks like the napalm targeting missile. I wonder if in fact we could do a little bit of a look here. Napalm missile. Maybe it's not there yet. It was pretty recent, and this replay might be a little bit older. Oh, I should also mention, this is important. This is the Legion development team. There's a reason so many of these are developers on this team. This is the Legion development team going up against another team over here. So it was definitely an interesting circumstance. I'm like combing through my messages right now to try and figure it out. Yeah, so this replay was sent on over by Hornet. It says the Legion devs versus Slovenia. In parentheses, we don't know how it happened either. So a lot of Legion devs over here. It's fun to see because it does mean, of course, that they're also the people who I guess would know Legion the best, right? Look at these fighters, by the way. They look like the little starfighters that Anakin and Obi-Wan rode in. You know the ones I'm talking about. Nyan Potato going to be the air player right here. Sorry, I'm so distracted. I love Legion so much. I'm so distracted by them all over the place. We got some Goblin Gundams moving their way around. A couple of ticks have snuck into the backline right here. Potato moving into position to try and shut them down. Starts up an LLT. Riot Cannon mounted, affixed upon that Legion commander's arm, will clean up those ticks, and it'll all be dealt with quite nicely. Now, Von Comet has moved pretty aggressively far forward here, going to be positioning themselves to try and keep control over this metal extractor in the middle. Produces 5.3 metal per second, is tremendous. Trying to lock down this area as much as possible. LLT is going to come up. As long as the aggression is high enough, though, it's actually a lot easier to hold this line from up here. Because once you have this area controlled, you essentially just have to worry about this line, and then you can send forces up to here and fire down onto this direction as well. That's a terrible arrow, but anyway, you get the idea. So I actually do like this aggression quite a lot. I think if we can maintain the aggression, then it could work out quite nicely here. I'm curious to see if these teams have any shenanigans in the bank as well here. One of the things about Legion, of course, is their ability to go for those overcharged metal extractors, so I am very curious to see exactly how we're going to utilize those overcharged mexes. Ah, interesting. Hornet going into a seaplane platform here. Very interesting. So we went for a naval lab, got all the naval constructors and everything, locked all this down, and then we went to a seaplane construction platform. So we're going to try and contest the airs from the sea. Those seaplanes obviously very powerful, so it's, well, maybe that's not obvious. The seaplanes are very powerful. They're essentially a T1.5, similar to the way that hovers are, although hovers are more like T.8. Yeah, T.8. They're a little bit worse than tanks and a little bit worse than boats, but they can go where either one of them can go. But seaplanes definitely a lot better than the T1 planes. Not as good as the T2, though, is kind of the trade-off there. Interesting. We've got a forward facility here. We're just going to go ahead and blast it apart. Oh, there we go. We're going to start capturing. Didn't hold fire, though, so despite the capture command, we did not manage to actually maintain this, and Von Comet loses the forward lab. Not the start we were hoping for here, not for Von Comet anyways. Gonna go for a forward vehicle bake, very critically low on energy because we are running this entire operation off a single solar panel. It's times like these you start begging and pleading for your team to hand you a bunch of energy infrastructure. As it stands for the time being, Comet definitely doesn't have enough energy to fund a forward operation like this. That's the other fun thing about Legion metal extractors. They're essentially a wind turbine each. 7 energy per second. Well, not on this map. I guess wind turbines are way more powerful on this map, but 7 energy each per metal extractor for the Legion. So it does mean that your energy economy scales with your metal economy a little bit. It's not the most, it's not the most game-breaking amount of energy per second, but you definitely get a nice little boost every time you go for a metal extractor, which is something to say the very least. Centurion up on this high ground. Wouldn't mind seeing them walk around to try and get some value over here. A couple of Centaur being built. The assault unit here, the very fast-paced assault unit, fast assault bot for Legion, fires a big burst of damage, similar to, I guess I would say, something like a Janus in the way that its damage is front-loaded very heavily, but they're also extremely quick. Makes them very deadly, very good for sneaking past defenses. Couple of ballista here as well, the medium rocket bots. They have quite high health. They do a nice little splash of damage as well every time that they fire. Down goes that 5.3 metal extractor. MT King marching forward here. Do we have the D-gun? Do we have the D-gun? Oh. Nope. Maybe not. I'm waiting to see if MT King's going to use the D-gun here. I'm not sure if it was enabled, though. It was, as of recording is, it was really, really recently announced, so it might still be in testing. I'm not sure if the patch has gone live. It could be that the D-gun was not enabled for this game here, but anyways, I'm keeping my eyes open for it. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, so I'm very excited. A blindfold, a Juno bomber here. Cheeky Juno bomber. Rare that we get to see these things. Don't mind it whatsoever, though, especially against tick spam. That's something I hadn't considered, but yeah, the Juno bomber makes a lot of sense as a anti-tick weapon in the early game. Trying to target down some of these radar towers and whatnot, make sure that they stay paralyzed. Love to see it. Yeah, not bad right here. From the purple commander. We also have some mosquitoes coming out. Little ornithopter wannabes. Let's go ahead and track these bad boys. There they are. Not sure why it wants to lock the camera in a different position, but there we go. You can see them fluttering their wings. They're adorable little ornithopters. They flutter their wings and then they have a little missile system that recharges over time. Whoops. Oh, pardon me. Sorry, camera controls. Having a hard time today. Speaking of having a hard time, MDXD definitely struggling against these medium ballista bot. MDXD as well as Von Comet. And for a fair reason, those ballista are really dangerous. Centaur having a good time over here. Whoa, you can see the damage they do is just ridiculous. Super, super powerful early game assault unit. Highly capable. Firing their little 3-round burst. Centurion trying its best here. Struggling against the Centaur. Similar sounding name, but quite different unit. Filling quite different roles. There they go. Centaur's blasting apart the Centurion, the static defense, all the rest of it. The Centaur's one major drawback is the fact that it's very nearsighted. See, the attack range for this thing is virtually nothing. Very powerful, very flimsy, definitely glass cannon type of unit. Rocketeers firing away against the ballista. Ballista quite expensive at 160 metal versus the Rocketeer's 120. You get a slightly more powerful unit, a slightly more durable unit, which is also quite valuable. But of course, having more stuff oftentimes means winning the fight. Couple pawns running by over here on the right-hand side, trying to find some value. Oh no, we're pulling them back. They definitely could snipe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 metal extractors over here if they just commit to that push, but not going to be the case here. Little bit of a bummer. Also worth noting that Legion has their own LLT. How cool is that? They have their own, they have their own LLT that they can fire away with. The Heat Ray LLT. Very cool. Coastal Torpedo Launcher right here doing quite a number on Tremor Enjoyer, the Tan Commander here. I can sympathize. The Tremors are quite awesome. We've got a couple of Karakinos moving forward right now. Medium dual weapon infantry bots. So they have a little shield on their arm that protects them from a bunch of damage. They have a lance that they hold above their head and blast things away with. And they have a little riot cannon mounted inside their shields for in case anything gets a little too close. They are really one of the cooler units in Legion, in my opinion. They're very, very neat. The way they're designed, their multiple weapon systems. Ah, a napalm missile has been fired, signaling to me that the D-gun must not be implemented. That or the napalm stayed and then the D-gun still overwrites it somehow. Maybe they get the D-gun after the first Legion upgrade. Legion commanders upgrade themselves every so often. Oh, there we go. What perfect timing. Legion commanders have upgraded to level 2. There we go. So yeah, you can see they upgrade themselves. They get a little more range, a little more damage, a little more health. They just kind of get better overall. Juno Bomber continuing to be annoying over here, deploying that Juno Bomb to shut down radar towers, shut down ticks, shut down any of that they can. Not that there's a lot of it here to shut down, but if there were, you'd be pretty well shut down. Massive investment in tidal right here. Tidal speed not tremendous on this map, but at the end of the world, of course, 20 energy per second. Essentially a solar panel's worth of energy per second, but at a fraction of the cost. Gonna be well enough worth it. This is the third lab now that Von Comet is forced to abandon. Poor fella has been trying desperately to hold this front line and failing. One battle after another. With only so many units on the front line to help out, there's not a whole lot you can do. The ballista are falling, but very slowly. The tankiness of a Cortex unit with the beefy projectile, the powerful projectile of an Armada unit. What's not to love about these dangerous boys? MT King marching forward here. Are we going for a capture command? Is that what we have? Fire command turned off. There we go. Ooh, a nice snipe right there. There we go. MT King loses the commander over here in the middle of the map. Protar marching forward, but also very low on HP. Yeah, those commanders are drained. They need to be repaired or otherwise removed. Pull them back, send them next to the build power. MDXT moving over in this direction to try and reclaim as much of this metal as possible. Not having these mexes up and running is a bit of a bummer, but at least it's offset by the red team not having these mexes up and running either. There's also overall a little bit of a disadvantage to the red team because they have the Legion mexes, which produce a little bit less metal. We do have some overcharge mexes in the back here, so you can see this one producing 3.7, these ones producing 3.7, whereas these regular ones producing 1.5. So you get 2x the metal output of the metal spot right here. Very, very valuable. Mosquitoes jumping on top of a whole bunch of these Karkinos. Not Karganeth, Karkinos. Fighters of all shapes and sizes. We've got the little scouter fighters. We've got the air fighters, the seaplane air fighters. Anti-air fighters, I should say. Bats. And they're good. Excellent swarmcraft. Essentially, they're designed around having air superiority in numbers. Legion missiles firing away. The biggest advantage to the Legion napalm missile, of course, is its ability to bypass physical objects, right? It can go around things and go past things, and then it can deploy in an AoE. Gonna be one of the tricks for figuring out how their D-gun should work, of course. Trying to figure out how to balance against that. Maybe the AoE will be quite a bit smaller. I'm excited to see. I hope you're excited as well. I know a lot of the Brightworks members do appreciate Legion, do enjoy playing with it. We play with it virtually every stream. It has, because of that, essentially become the hotspot for testing Legion stuff. I've noticed more and more Legion developers hanging out in my streams, enjoying the fun times, enjoying us, enjoying their work, which is totally understandable. And my one question on my mind, and I think everybody else's, is what is the T2 transition going to look like here? Blue Commander already has some T2 mexes up and running, so that's great. Going to use those T2 mexes to fund a T2 lab right now. I wouldn't have minded seeing these come up, but already we are starting to look like we need that T2 transition. Yeah, we have a radar and a radar jammer headed to the front right here for the Yellow Commander Protar. Going to be trying to hold the line using the last of these Karkinos and Ballista, repairing them as much as possible. Again, the numbers are eventually in the favor of the blue player, the Cyan Commander, who has been fighting tooth and nail to stay on this front line. The unkillable soldier, firing rocket after rocket to try and deny any kind of advantage over here. As soon as those T2 units show their faces, it's going to be a problem, but at least for the time being, these Rocketeers have essentially won back this front line right here. Mosquitoes in the air getting shot to pieces. They're a light gunship, so they're similar in health. I guess you could compare them to a Banshee. Very, very low HP. Not very tanky. A nice burst of damage, but once they're out of missiles, they do take quite a while to recharge. Means that they're excellent for hit and run strategies. And I think the time is 9. We need to blast down all these LLTs to open up the opportunity to run by. If we can get some smaller troops running by to take down mexes left, right, all over the place, I think this will be a huge advantage right now. We need radar towers. One of these two commanders need to put some radar towers up. There we go. Ooh, Fat Boy has hit the battlefield. Von Comet looking to close this T1 era swiftly with the Fat Boy deployed right to the face here of the red team. Hound's coming out too. We do have a rail spider here, which is going to be nice for shooting away at a lot of this stuff if it has power. Oh no, not enough energy to fire the rail spider here. I think it takes 1,000 energy a shot, similar to the sharpshooter. Yep. No energy to fire the rail spider is devastating. Protar stopped moving for a second and it cost him the commander. And just like that, red forces have been pushed offline. Hounds ravaging the fronts here. And the Arquebus failing to prove viable here. The pain of the Arquebus is the fact that if you micro them backwards, it takes them about an eternity and a half in order to turn their nose around and actually start firing again. It means that you have to be very careful. You have to treat them similar to Mauser, actually, where you have to be very careful about over-microing them. Otherwise, you can drastically reduce their effectiveness. It's a weird kind of trade-off. Not a unit interaction that we commonly see, but it is one to be well aware of if you do happen to be playing some of those T2 Legion bots. They also take quite a lot of power is the other, of course, draining issue here. So more wind turbines coming up right now. Fusion reactors wouldn't be out of the question. Anything to make sure that we have the energy to fire these Arquebus. En masse, Arquebus can definitely be quite dangerous to deal with, especially for their impulse that stuns and slows units. We have a couple of gunships out now as well. The Sabres, the Gauss gunships. They fire a twin Gauss projectile. Very, very good. There they go. Blasting apart one of those Fat Boys. Well, the only Fat Boy on the front line here. Gonna make short work of that. Very heavy bot. Doing quite nicely. Mosquitoes in the air. They're trying to blast down some of this T1 over here. Their little micro missile doesn't do a lot of damage, but they can always unleash more. Plenty more where that came from. Gunships, by the way, sniping commanders out of the sky. Always cool to see those gunships finding value like that. Oh. We've lost the commander. There it is. I want every gun we have to fire on that man. Boom goes the second commander to die on the front line right here. Finally, the fighters are pulled against all this, but we do have, again, those bats in the sky, which are going to be more than capable of shooting down any of those T1 Legion fighters. T1 has a weird air curve where their T1 fighters are not so great, and then their T2 fighters are spectacular. It means that they're very prone to bombing runs and that sort of a thing in the early game, but then, of course, as you move into the late game, your fighters begin to take air superiority very seriously. You can make some interesting transitions happen that way. You do have to have a team that's well aware of that, though. I've definitely played my fair share of games where my team was completely blindsided by me playing Legion Air and under-investing in static AA defenses and suddenly losing the entire match to a couple of bombers. Certainly something anybody who's tried to play Air can sympathize with. It only compounds if you play Legion. That's what I'm trying to say. Cutlass is still having a field day here, just blasting apart whatever they can. Don't mind them taking down the static defense. I mean, I think they're pretty much the most efficient way we're going to have to deal with these beamer turrets, for instance. Beamer turrets quite sturdy, actually, for a T1 static defense. For what you pay for them and for T1 era, they're definitely relatively sturdy. Yeah, these Cutlass have every opportunity to dive forward here. I mean, we have T2 fighters out now. We have a couple of these Legionnaire up in the air. Rhymed, so you know it must be true. They're pretty good. Defensive fighter is their actual role. And it makes a lot of sense. They're very good dogfighters. Great for, yeah, dogfighting in and out of AA engagements, but not particularly epic against, or not particularly fast, I should say. So they're not great for instance, catching a whole bunch of units, right? So excellent for shutting down dragons, for instance, is one killer role that they have. Legion is interesting in the way that they have two different interceptor, or they have two different air fighters. They have a interceptor, which is a fast shotgun aircraft. Yeah, you heard that correctly. It's an airplane that has a shotgun strapped to its nose. Pretty interesting. They also have the Legionnaire, which we just saw there. And the shotgun one is quite interesting because it front loads damage, similar to the way a sharpshooter would, for instance. Basically, what I'm saying is Legion is the hard counter to dragons. Legion is definitely the hard counter to dragons. Legion also got their own combat engineer, the Proteus, which is pretty cool. Always interesting to see those new combat engineers come out and see how they're going to be balanced. T2 units in production right here for the Tank Commander. Tremor and Joyer starting to send some of those Arquebus out to the front as well. We do have another one still on the front lines. Well, blasted to smithereens here. Lived long on the front lines and then died. Did not prosper. Strider goes down here as well. Hound's quite good. Strider is essentially the equivalent to, for instance, a Fiend. A little bit more, actually quite a bit more expensive. Nearly double the cost of a Fiend. So you get a slightly beefier boy. Here they go. Ready to run on a little bit of a rampage. Little meatball heads. They're a Centurion chassis, but mounted with extra long legs. I'd never noticed that. I wondered what the shape of that was. I just realized that's what these are. Yeah, it's a Centurion chassis, mounted with twin miniguns, and fixed with Marauder legs. Wow. Well, that's amazing. Oh, we have some Phoenix up in the sky. Another one of my favorite Legion units. Oh, these things are beautiful. The way they deploy their glassing beam. Wow. It's beautiful. I have to say, the Phoenix are probably my favorite, like, thematically speaking, from a design perspective. Just beautiful. Watching them cut across the face of an infantry line is just something else. There we go. Man, these things are cool. I am so thrilled with the design of these. I think they're probably one of the best designed Legion units in the game. Hornet taking a lot of damage now. Phoenix is trying to glass that hot pink commander out of the sky, or into the dirt, I should say. Gunships and bombers and fighters, oh my. Everyone and their mother is dogpiling on top of this army right here. There's Navy right here in pink. We have tons and tons of anti-air boats firing away, but it's just T1 anti-air. It doesn't do much. Oh no, the anti-air boats can't stop at all. Trying to shoot as many of these bombers and gunships and whatnot out of the sky as possible, but there's just no way to keep up with it all. These Dam Buster bombers are super powerful as well. Their ability to target down single target structures is parallel to none. They vastly outcompete others in the category, is what I mean by that. Despite all that anti-air, all that T1 anti-air, the Cutlass still make it into the backline. A huge amount of damage right here from Hornet. Getting these Cutlass into the backline and ravaging the base right here of Zagesi, the green commander, over on the southwestern side. Thought I heard a nuke. I swear I heard a nuke go off. Must be in my imagination. Oh, it was a torpedo. I see. Yes. The torpedoes are absurdly loud for some reason. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you exactly why. Ooh, Gunslinger goes down right there. That's always a nice pick. Shutting off a Gunslinger always feels satisfying because, of course, if you don't kill the Gunslinger, it just comes right back at full health in just a minute or so. So Legion has also gotten their own pop-up artillery is another thing. They now have a artillery cannon, similar to like a Rattlesnake or a Persecutor, that sort of a thing. Fires a cluster plasma munition, which seems to be kind of another one of the defining characteristics that we're seeing with Legion. Cluster munitions, heat rays, all that sort of stuff. Personally, I think that's wonderful. I was wondering what the defining characteristic would be, right? Because Armada has lightning, Legion has, Cortex has fire. Legion has heat rays. They use a lot of heat rays. And apparently cluster munitions, which makes perfect sense because all their other units use tons of DACA, tons and tons of bullets per second. I think it all makes a lot of sense. Seaplane fighters so good. Yeah, they really are so good. Archangel's trying to shoot him down. Keyword is trying, I suppose. The anti-air missiles and Archangels, not impressive. They're better than T1, and that's pretty much the only qualifier I can give them. It seems like they oftentimes need assistance from virtually any other source of AA. Their only positive characteristic is that they're better than nothing. By a very thin margin. Napalm bombs going down right here. Sure, why not? Gonna start napalm bombing the geothermal over here, the advanced geothermal. One of the curious things about napalm is that it does stack. So if you have 10 napalm bombers and they all deploy their payload, you can see this going down in bursts of 5 per second as opposed to 1 per second like it was before. Boom goes the advanced geo right here for the orange commander, losing tons and tons of energy production per second. We have a couple of fusion reactors in the back still, so all is still well, but it definitely hurts. The Arquebus wall has finally been built. Phoenix up in the sky trying to blast apart whatever they can as well. The overwhelming air control, though, does mean that the blue team is prepared for it. Always something you have to be careful about. If you go for too many of those early bombing runs, it means that the enemy is going to be well prepared for your air. It means you can pretty much only go for defensive airplay after that. Even easier to fall for that as Legion as well, because they have access to those martyrs, which are a slip and slide drone. They sacrifice themselves valiantly in order to blow up enemy resource production or enemy anything. But they're so cheap and they're so disposable that oftentimes players will use them and suddenly prompt the enemy into going into tons and tons of anti-air on the ground, invalidating future bombing runs or making future bombing runs much less efficient anyways. It's a weird kind of trade-off. Anywho, good old-fashioned salamander tanks. Oh, we were going for a Tyrannus, the flying fortress right here. I don't think it's gonna come up. Salamanders get into the backline, start blasting apart fusion reactors. Advanced geothermal also under fire here. Boom goes the geo. Takes down the entire T2 air lab here as well. Brutally sending a shockwave through the economy of the blue team. And just like that, one of their key economic players is wiped out of the game. Middle metal extractors were never rebuilt right here. We need these back online if we want to stay in this match. This area has fallen under control right here of Tremor Enjoyer. We've got the mine layer bombers deploying clusters of mine munitions out onto the battlefield here. They drop light mines. Call me crazy, but I'd like a version of this that could drop medium and heavy mines. Obviously significantly more costly and should demand a huge cost per second to maintain. Maybe it would be a button, right? Maybe you could switch between light, medium, and heavy mines. Obviously, like you could add rearming times. Oh, I guess this is why Legion always catches me, is because it gets so speculative. What ifs? I find it personally enthralling. Oh, is this oh, we have an ORPC cannon. Oh, I've wanted to look at one of these for so long. A good, nice up and close, front and personal look. Here we go. Oh, look at this bad boy. Look at this three-headed monstrosity of a cannon. This thing is badass. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, it fires like a Cerberus too. Look at those reciprocating barrels as well. Decelerating the recoil right there. The steam vents as well. What a beautiful modeling job on this thing. I love the way the Legion units are starting to shape up. God, that's epic. The sound design and everything. The little geothermal vents coming out the top too. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, pardon me. I'll switch into the regular perspective here once again. Arquebus looking to move forward. Legion Air, very funky, cries out 1984. Fair enough. It is definitely very funky. From the Phoenix planes that are very strange to use, the napalm bombers that are very strange to use, the fighters that are very strange to use. They're definitely very strange, the Legion faction. Arquebus, technically anti-air, which is an interesting duality of roles. Sniper bot, but also a air sniper bot. Whoa. Nuclear missile detected. Plop directly into the base right here of the green commander. sending ripples through. Saw an explosion over here as well. Did we try to get... yeah, we did. We tried to push forward with the commander over here. Some Dragon's Jaw, the pop-up riot cannons, shutting down that commander, blasting it to smithereens. And then it's the last straw that broke the blue team's back here as the encroaching force of Arquebus manages to push back everybody on the blue team. At the end of the day, Legion manages to take victory. What a fun match. I cannot wait for Legion to come out. Let me know what you think down below. I'm always happy to hear feedback about Legion. Always happy to discuss the topic. And I'm sure a lot of the developers are listening as well, so give them a little bit of credit down below where they well deserved it there as well. Anyways, thanks a ton for watching, and I will see you in the very next one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out.